Everyone is looking for a cheat code, that one stock pick or that investment or that side hustle that changes everything. But I've been quietly using the same cheat code for the past 15 years, and it is not what everyone is selling. It's boring, it has trade offs, and it works. And that cheat code is reducing your housing costs. Not investing, not a side hustle, at least at first. Now, before you click away, think about it. Your housing cost is your biggest expense. In most people's budgets, just keeping a roof over your head is where most of your money goes. And because it's your biggest expense, every single dollar that you're not spending just to not be homeless could go to other things. Paying down debt, building up savings, or to start investing. But the cool thing is, if you really focus on cutting your housing costs, like really reducing that biggest bill that you have, that means you don't have to worry so much about the small stuff because you've made one really big pivot. And that's what I've been focused on for the past 15 years. I'm 35 now, and so I started in my early 20s. And it was just with this mentality of always thinking about, is there a way that I can reduce my housing costs? Is there a way that I can cut this biggest bill in my budget? And this mentality of reducing my housing costs has brought a lot of options and flexibility to me in my career as an academic and in nonprofits without the benefit of a big corporate salary and benefits. So, what has this 15 years looked like? So this starts when I was in my early 20s. And as a sophomore in college, I took on a position as a resident advisor, or an RA, which provided me free housing for 3 of my 4 years of college. Then I went to graduate school where I aggressively looked to live in the more affordable neighborhoods. And then in my last year, I had the absolute luxury of once again basically having free housing when I moved in with my sister. Then I moved to my first big girl job as an assistant professor at a small liberal arts college. And I moved from North Carolina, where I went to school, up to Massachusetts. And before I got there, I negotiated money to be able to spend some time to actually look for an apartment. And I bullied a real estate agent into letting me see a unit before it was even ready because it was at least $400 under market price. Then I moved from that apartment to what then was my first house, which was a duplex style building. It technically was 2 condos, but let's just call it a duplex for simplicity. And the cost of both of those condo payments was around $1,100 or $1,200, but I could rent out that small unit. At that time, I rented it for $1,000 a month, again, effectively kind of eliminating my housing cost. Fast forward another couple years, I learned about an on-campus position advising honors students. And so I moved out of my side of my duplex, rented that out, and moved on campus. And once again, I was paid in housing, again, eliminating my housing costs. After a couple of years of doing that, love brought me back to North Carolina because my partner and I were long distance at the time. And so then we moved in together. And we actually moved in originally with his roommate. And then when that rental situation no longer worked out, we then were able to buy our first primary residence that we live in together now. And we've already converted the lower unit of the split level house into an apartment that we are currently looking for a tenant for right now. And so you may be saying to yourself, Sabrina, that's doing the most. And you're not wrong. But what has 15 years of really focusing on my housing costs gotten me? Well, it meant that I had no student loan debt and was able to buy my first house before the age of 30. It meant that my fiance, now husband, and I were able to have enough for the down payment and repairs on our first rental together. It also meant that we could take on the risk of flipping 2 houses, which was risky because it did not go well. And without the extra margin, that could have put us in a seriously financially tight, difficult position. And then ultimately, when our rental situation that was so wonderful, that had worked for so long, no longer worked, we were able to have the down payment money to be able to move to our first primary. And so before I close, I just want to say, I'm not rich. And this strategy probably won't make you rich either. But it can provide options and flexibility. And as you can see, this started 15 years ago, back in my 20s. But that does not mean that I had this plan all laid out at 20. Nobody does. I was just making the next decision and figuring out the next step as it came to me. But always with this mentality, this idea at the forefront of my mind that if you cut your biggest expense, even just somewhat, it frees up margin so that you can do other things. And it just compounds over time. And with that, thank you for watching. Like if you liked, and comment below, what creative housing strategy are you trying or considering? And with that, I'll see you in the next one.